Dark space. Silent. Endless. Only the faint glow of dying embers from the burning world below broke the darkness. Council leader Therin stood at the large viewing window of the council chamber. His tall, thin frame was motionless, his black eyes reflecting the orange fire that consumed New Valera. The once beautiful cities now looked like rivers of molten light flowing across the planet's surface. He did not speak. He did not blink. He simply watched as everything his people had built for 300 years vanished in a single night. The silence inside the chamber was heavy, broken only by the soft hum of life support systems and the distant beeps of failing power nodes. The smell of burnt circuits and ozone still lingered in the air. Behind Therin, the other council members stood waiting. Their faces showed fear, confusion, and disbelief. They were healers, scientists, and doctors, not soldiers. None of them had ever seen real war. "Leader Therin," said Kale, the medical director, his voice weak. "Reports from the outer colonies, 17,000 wounded have reached our hospitals. But there are still 40,000 trapped. We cannot reach them. The Kruger fleet has blocked all travel routes." Therin didn't turn. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "And the Krugers?" 200 ships, sir," answered Nara, the communications officer. 30 dreadnoughts. They will arrive here in 6 days. A heavy silence followed. The words hung in the air like smoke. 6 days. 6 days before 200 warships reached a planet that had no army, no weapons. Only doctors. The Vana Republic had not fought a war in over 4 centuries. Their ships carried medicine, not missiles. They had transformed their weapon factories into medical research stations, believing peace would last forever. Now that dream was burning. Therin finally turned to face the others. His expression was calm, but his voice carried the weight of despair. 400 years of peace, he said softly. We thought the universe had changed. We were wrong. Kale lowered his head. Our shields can hold for 2 days at most. After that, there will be nothing left. The leader looked at the council table, a shining circle of crystal that had once symbolized unity. Now it reflected the red light of flames outside. What of our allies? He asked. Did the Altran Union respond? Nara shook her head. They said they cannot spare any ships. The Confederation of Worlds is under attack as well. The Helix Republic offers to take refugees, but no defense. Refugees. That word cut through the room like a blade. Where would they even run? Theron's voice grew heavy. Then, we are alone. No one answered. The silence returned, thick and cold. Then a soft chime broke the tension. Nara looked down at her console. Her brow furrowed. Sir, there is another signal, she said. Strange one. Coming from the outer rim. Theron turned. A Kruger transmission? No, sir. It's different. Repeating patterns. Data packets, about medicine. The room stirred. Medicine? Kale asked quickly. Yes. Detailed files on surgery, disease treatment, emergency care, things we've never seen before. Theron stepped closer. Who sent it? We don't know. It comes from a system 47 light-years away. A small blue-green planet. The species calls themselves humans. The word hung in the air like a mystery. Kale's tired eyes lit up for the first time. Their medical science, how advanced is it? Nara's fingers moved across the control panel. Very advanced. In trauma surgery, emergency medicine, infection control, they surpass us. Their data shows hundreds of methods for saving lives under extreme conditions. They must have great experience with war injuries. Theron frowned. So, they heal because they have suffered. No one spoke. The realization was unsettling. Finally, Kale whispered, maybe they will understand our pain. Maybe they can help. Theron looked back out at the burning planet. The fires of New Valera still raged, swallowing everything. He closed his eyes. Open a channel, he said. The communications array came alive with soft beeps and lights. The chamber dimmed. For the first time in centuries, the Vana Republic would reach out to an unknown species. Nara nodded. Channel open. Theron took a deep breath and spoke. His voice trembled slightly, not from fear but from hope. This is Council Leader Theron of the Vana Republic. To the species known as humans, we send this message with trust. Our people are healers, not fighters. We face destruction from an empire that knows no mercy. We ask not for weapons, but for aid. Medical aid. If you can hear us, please, help us save what remains. The message was sent. It echoed across the stars, vanishing into the black void. The chamber was silent once again. Only the hum of the machines filled the air. Minutes passed. Nothing. Kale exhaled slowly. Perhaps they cannot hear us. Thurin did not answer. He kept his eyes fixed on the stars. Or perhaps, he said quietly, they are deciding what kind of help to send. Outside, the fires of New Valera burned brighter. Unaware that somewhere far away on a small blue planet called Earth, someone, or something, had just received their call. The signal traveled for weeks through the endless dark of space, passing silent stars, dead moons and forgotten worlds. Until one ordinary night, on a small blue-green planet called Earth, it reached its destination. In an underground command facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a red alert flashed across the screens. "Unidentified transmission detected," said a young technician, his eyes widening as strange alien symbols filled the monitor. Across the room, a woman in a dark navy uniform looked up from her console. "Source?" she asked calmly. "Outer sector, 47 light-years away," the technician replied. "Signal type, unknown. But it's not random. It's structured, like a distress call." The woman stood up, her posture straight and controlled. Her name was Admiral Sarah Kepler, commander of the United Earth Defense and Research Fleet, known across human space simply as the UEDRF. She walked closer to the screen. The signal repeated in slow pulses, carrying data fragments, a language humans had never seen before. "Run it through the Xenolinguistics AI," she ordered. Within minutes, the translation appeared. The words were broken at first, then slowly began to take shape. "This is Council Leader Thurin of the Vana Republic. We are a peaceful people. We face destruction. We ask not for weapons, but for healing." The room went silent. Every eye turned to Admiral Kepler. "Play it again," she said quietly. The message played once more. The alien voice was calm but trembling, filled with fear and sorrow. When it ended, the Admiral took a deep breath. "They're asking for help," she said softly. Scene 2, the decision room. Hours later, the highest-ranking officers and scientists of Earth gathered in the Global Defense Command Hall. Holograms of star maps floated above the long table, showing the Vana Republic system, burning under the red marks of the Kruger Empire. "Madam Admiral," said Dr. Elena Park, head of Xenomedical Research, "the data they sent contains advanced medical algorithms. These people are healers, not warriors. They're being wiped out." General Marcus Hale, commander of the Earth Fleet's Combat Division, folded his arms. "And what do they want from us? Medicine? Or soldiers?" "Medicine," Elena replied. "They think we're like them, a peaceful medical race." The general smirked. "They have no idea who we really are." The Admiral shot him a sharp look. "Enough." She looked at the hologram of the burning planet. "For centuries," she said, "humanity learned medicine because of war. Every cure we created came from pain. Every advancement came from blood." The room was silent. Everyone knew it was true. "So when they ask for doctors," she continued, "they will get them. But those doctors will arrive on warships." The generals exchanged glances. They understood what she meant. Humanity would answer the call, but on its own terms. Scene 3, the response. Admiral Kepler stood in the command bay as the communication array came online. "Begin recording," she said. Her voice was calm, strong, and deliberate. "This is Admiral Sarah Kepler of the United Earth Defense and Research Fleet. To the Vana Republic, we have received your distress call. Medical aid and humanitarian support are being prepared. We are sending help." She paused. "End transmission." Her second-in-command, Captain Reese, turned toward her. "How much help are we sending?" The Admiral's eyes hardened. "All of it." Scene 4, the gathering storm. Across Earth's orbit, dozens of massive ships began to awaken. The Sol-class carriers, each capable of holding entire cities inside. The Ares dreadnoughts, their hulls thick as mountain stone. The Mercy-class hospital ships, each carrying millions of doses of nanomedicine, and soldiers trained as combat medics. Engines roared. The planet's night sky shimmered with trails of light. Inside the main dock, engineers and medics rushed through corridors. Robotic loaders carried crates labeled Humanitarian Emergency Response, Tier Omega. But everyone knew what Tier Omega meant. It wasn't just rescue. It was retribution. Captain Reese watched as rows of armored soldiers stood at attention, each with the Red Cross symbol painted on their shoulders. "They think we're doctors," Reese said quietly. "And we are. But we also remember what happens when someone hurts the weak." The Admiral nodded. "That's why the Krugers won't know what's coming." Scene 5. The journey begins. As Earth rotated below, the fleet formed up in high orbit, hundreds of ships stretching across the stars. Fleet command to all vessels, the admiral's voice echoed through every ship. Set coordinates for the Vana system. Prepare humanitarian strike response. For the fallen. For the innocent. For humanity. Engines ignited. Space itself seemed to bend as the fleet entered warp. A brilliant blue light filled the void, then vanished. Scene 6. The Vana Republic waits. Far away in the remains of the Vana Council chamber, Therin sat alone. The fires of New Valera had dimmed, but the smoke still rose. No answer had come. Kale entered quietly, holding a small device. Leader, we've detected a signal. Therin turned sharply. From the Krugers? Kale shook his head. No. From deep space. The humans. Therin's heart raced. Play it. The room filled with the voice of Admiral Kepler. To the Vana Republic, we have received your distress call. Medical aid and humanitarian support are being prepared. We are sending help. Kale smiled faintly. They heard us. Therin leaned back, relief washing over him. Then maybe, there is hope. But neither of them noticed the hidden data embedded within the message. A coded pulse of military signatures, encrypted orders, and fleet movements. The humans were indeed coming. But they weren't coming only with doctors. Final scene, humanity's wrath. In the dark between stars, the human fleet traveled faster than light. Inside the lead dreadnought UED Sol Invictus, Admiral Kepler stood before the viewing window, the stars stretching like silver lines. Her reflection glowed in the glass as she whispered, "You asked for doctors, and you will have them. But if the Krugers stand in our way, they will meet the healers of Earth, and learn that mercy can bleed." Outside, the fleet burned through the void like a storm of light. Humanity's wrath wrapped in the name of aid. And somewhere in the silent cold of deep space, the Kruger Empire had no idea that its end had already begun. The sky above New Valera was dark and broken. Thick clouds of ash still drifted from the burned orbital stations, covering the stars. The Vana Republic's homeworld looked more like a dying ember than a living planet. For 6 long days the people had waited. They watched the horizon with empty eyes, waiting for the Kruger fleet that would end them, or for a miracle that might save them. In the council chamber, Leader Therin stood beside the flickering hollow map. His tired face was pale, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights. "Any news from our outer sensors?" he asked softly. Communications Officer Nara shook her head. "Nothing, sir. Only debris and Kruger patrols. Their fleet will reach orbit in less than 3 hours." The room fell silent again. Even the hum of machinery seemed slower, weaker, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Therin turned toward Kale, the medical director. "Prepare evacuation ships. Get as many civilians as you can into orbit. The Krugers may attack from above first." Kale nodded, his hands trembling. "Yes, leader. But even if we escape, where do we go?" Therin didn't answer. He had no answer. Then Nara's console began to beep rapidly. Everyone froze. "Sir," she whispered, her voice shaking. Something's coming through the jump point." Therin's heart stopped. "Krugers?" "No, sir," she said. Her eyes widened as she stared at the readings. Unknown signatures. Large, very large. Hundreds of ships. Kale stepped forward. "Can you identify them?" Nara hesitated, then looked up. The transponder codes matched the humans. The chamber erupted in disbelief. "They came?" Kale whispered. Therin gripped the edge of the table. "Show me." The central hollow projector flickered to life, and the air filled with light. Hundreds of bright blue dots appeared at the edge of the system, arranged in perfect formation. Each dot carried its own smaller clusters, escorts, medships, carriers. Therin stared, unable to speak. "By the stars." Nara zoomed in on one of the ships. The image sharpened, revealing a massive vessel of dark silver metal, its surface glowing with faint blue energy lines. The ship was easily 10 times larger than their hospital ships. Written across its hull in clean white letters were 2 words. "UD Mercy." The Vani gasped. "They actually sent help," Kale said, almost crying. "Medical aid ships." Therin nodded slowly, though his heart pounded in his chest. "Yes, but why so many?" Scene 2, Humanity arrives. In orbit near the Vana system, space itself shimmered and tore apart as the human fleet exited warp. Hundreds of massive ships emerged from blue light, their engines humming like thunder. On the bridge of the UED Sol Invictus, Admiral Sarah Kepler stood at the viewing window, her eyes scanning the red glowing planet below. "Status report," she said. "Fleet stable, replied Captain Reese. We're picking up life signs across the surface. Heavy radiation zones, but large survivor clusters near the capital. Kepler nodded. Deploy Mercy-class ships to low orbit. Begin medical scans. Send strike teams to secure airspace. If the Krugers show up, they won't last long, Reese finished. The Admiral's voice was calm. Then let's begin. Scene 3. The sky burns again. On the surface, the Vana people looked up as the clouds parted for the first time in days. Through the smoke, they saw light, bright blue trails streaking across the sky. Children pointed, gasping. Adults dropped to their knees. Is it them? Someone whispered. The humans. Dozens of giant ships descended slowly from orbit, breaking through the clouds like shining mountains. Their engines left long streaks of silver light behind them. Each ship carried the same symbol, a red cross inside a white circle. The Vana cheered. Some cried. For the first time in years, hope filled the air. Scene 4. The first contact. In the capital city, Thurin stood on a high balcony as a shuttle descended near the council plaza. Its hull gleamed, covered with strange markings and flashing blue lights. The ship's ramp lowered slowly, hissing steam. From inside, tall armored figures walked out, their suits white and gray, each marked with the same red cross. Helmets hid their faces and their movements were precise, controlled. The leader stepped forward, removed her helmet, and revealed a calm human face with sharp eyes. Leader Thurin, she said, her voice clear and steady. I am Admiral Sarah Kepler, representing Earth and the United Human Defense and Research Fleet. We received your message. Thurin stepped forward, his heart racing. Admiral Kepler, we are honored. You came to help us. We did, she said. Our medical ships are already scanning your population. Emergency hospitals are being deployed. Her eyes then turned toward the sky. But we also detected an incoming hostile fleet. Thurin nodded sadly. Yes, the Krugers. They will be here soon. Kepler's expression hardened. Then we'll handle them. Thurin blinked. Handle them? You mean, defend? The Admiral looked at him, a small, cold smile touching her lips. No, Leader Thurin. Not defend. And Scene 5, the Storm of Mercy. In orbit, alarms sounded. Kruger ships entering system, shouted the sensor officer aboard the Sol Invictus. Admiral Kepler turned toward the holographic display. 200 enemy warships appeared at the edge of the system, charging forward. Ready the fleet, she ordered. Activate all combat wings. Ma'am, Captain Reese said, the Krugers are hailing us. Kepler crossed her arms. Ignore them. Moments later, the stars exploded with light. The human fleet moved like a living creature, silent, fast, unstoppable. Missile bays opened. Rail cannons glowed. Fighters launched from hangars like flocks of metal birds. The Kruger ships fired first, filling space with burning plasma. The human ships didn't flinch. Their shields shimmered blue as the blasts hit, then vanished as the counterattack began. From the surface, the Vani watched the sky turn white. The clouds glowed from the fire above. The heavens themselves looked like they were at war. Scene 6, Humanity Revealed. Back in the council chamber, Thurin watched the live feed in disbelief. Hundreds of Kruger ships vanished from the map, erased in seconds. What are they doing? Kale whispered. Thurin's eyes widened. They're saving us. Nara's voice trembled. Sir, look, the humans' hospital ships are treating survivors in orbit while the warships fight beside them. They heal and fight at the same time. Kale sank into his chair. They are not like us. They are healers, yes, but forged from fire. Thurin whispered almost to himself, they are doctors and destroyers. Scene 7, Aftermath. Hours later, the battle ended. The Kruger fleet was gone, silent debris scattered across the void. On the ground, the Vani walked out into the sunlight for the first time in weeks. Above them, the massive human ships floated peacefully, their weapons now silent. In the Capitol Plaza, Admiral Kepler stood beside Thurin, watching medical drones deliver aid across the city. Thurin looked at her with deep gratitude. You saved us, Admiral. Your doctors, your ships. Kepler's gaze remained on the horizon. You asked for healing and you received it. But sometimes to heal, she paused, her eyes cold but proud. We must first cut away the infection. Thurin didn't know what to say. The humans had saved them, but the memory of that blazing sky would never leave his mind. The people of Vani would forever remember that day not just as their salvation, but as the day they el. The fires of war had finally faded. The sky above New Valera was no longer red with flame but calm and blue once more. Where once there had been ash and ruin, there was now life again. The human fleet still hung in orbit, silent giants of metal that glimmered like stars. For the people of the Vana Republic, those ships were symbols of salvation. Across the cities, human medics and engineers worked side by side with the Vana. They built hospitals, purified water, rebuilt transport lines, and treated the wounded. Everywhere they went, they carried the same symbol, a red cross on a white field. The people called them angels of mercy. But not everyone thought of them that way. Scene 1. A new beginning. Council leader Thurin walked through the new central medical hub, his hands clasped behind his back. The facility was enormous, human technology mixed with Vana design. White walls, bright blue light, machines that hummed softly as they scanned patients. At his side walked Dr. Kale, who had been working closely with the humans. They work fast, Thurin said quietly, watching a group of human medics implant a tiny healing device into a wounded child's chest. Kale nodded. Faster than us. Their medicine, it's far beyond anything we've ever seen. They can heal tissue in hours. They can rebuild organs. It's like magic. Thurin smiled faintly. Perhaps this is what true progress looks like. But then, his smile faded as he looked through a glass wall into another room. There, human soldiers, not doctors, stood guard around large crates labeled restricted aid supplies. Thurin frowned. Why guards at a medical center? Kale hesitated. They said it's for safety. Some of the equipment is dangerous if misused. Thurin nodded slowly, though unease stirred in his heart. Scene 2. The Hidden Power. That evening, Thurin was invited aboard the UED Sol Invictus, the flagship of the human fleet. As his shuttle approached the ship, he felt small compared to the massive structure of steel and light that floated before him. Inside, the air was cold, clean, and perfectly silent. Human officers stood straight as statues, their faces calm, their eyes sharp. Admiral Sarah Kepler met him at the main observation deck. Through the wide glass, the planet glowed below like a peaceful jewel. Leader Thurin, she greeted. How are your people adjusting? They are healing, Thurin replied. We owe you everything, Admiral. Without you, the Krugers would have destroyed us. Kepler nodded. Humanity does not abandon those who ask for help. Thurin smiled. You have shown great kindness. But there's something I must ask your soldiers. Your technology. Why are they all armed? The Admiral turned slightly, her expression unreadable. Because, Leader Thurin, she said softly, peace must be protected. And sometimes mercy requires strength. Thurin hesitated. You mean, you are still at war? We are always at war, Kepler said quietly. Not always with weapons, but with chaos, suffering, disease. The universe is full of pain and we treat it. Her tone was calm, almost gentle, but Thurin felt a chill behind her words. She walked to a console and pressed a button. The glass wall flickered, revealing a holographic map. It showed the surrounding systems, dozens of red marks where Kruger fleets had been. All of these, Kepler said, were destroyed in the last 72 hours. Thurin's eyes widened. Destroyed? By you. She nodded once. We could not risk them regrouping. The Kruger Empire is no longer a threat to you, or anyone. Thurin stared in silence. Entire fleets, wiped out in days. The Vani had asked for doctors, but humanity had delivered judgment. Scene 3. Whispers among the healers. Back on the surface, whispers began to spread among the Vani people. Some said the humans were saviors. Others said they were conquerors wearing the face of compassion. In the refugee camps, Vana doctors noticed something strange, human machines that collected biological samples from every patient. When asked why, the human medics replied, for research. To make better cures. But some Vana weren't sure. Dr. Kale met with other council members late at night. These samples, he said quietly, they're not just for research. I've seen the data transmissions. They're sending everything back to Earth. Genomes, neural patterns, entire biological maps. Are you sure? Another asked. Kale nodded grimly. The humans are studying us, completely. Thurin listened in silence. His heart was torn between gratitude and fear. He wanted to believe the humans meant no harm, but something about Admiral Kepler's calm smile haunted him. Scene 4. The Gift and the Warning. Days later, Kepler visited Thurin once more, this time with a gift. Her officers brought a small metallic sphere, covered in glowing blue lines. This, Kepler said, is an atmospheric purifier. It will restore your air, your soil, your water. It will make your planet stronger than before. Thurin looked at the device with awe. You give this freely? Of course, Kepler replied. But you must let our technicians maintain it. It is delicate. Thurin agreed, though unease grew inside him again. As the humans left, he turned to Kale. Why does every gift come with a condition? Kale said nothing, but his expression gave the answer. Scene 5, The Revelation. That night, in the communication tower, Nara called Thurin urgently. Leader, you must see this. On the main screen, hidden transmissions played, intercepted from human communication relays. A calm human voice spoke. Phase 2 of Operation Mercy is complete. The Vani are stable. Their infrastructure is under our supervision. Genetic data upload is 73% finished. Awaiting command for planetary integration. Thurin froze. Planetary integration? Nara's voice shook. They're not just helping us, they're taking control. The realization hit like a blade. The humans weren't conquerors in the old sense. They didn't need weapons to rule. Their help was their control. Every piece of technology, every cure, every gift, it made the Vana more dependent, more connected, more owned. Scene 6, The Confrontation. The next day, Thurin went to meet Admiral Kepler one last time. He found her in the command bay, surrounded by holographic displays. Admiral, he said firmly, we intercepted your message. Planetary integration. What does it mean? Kepler turned slowly. Her expression was calm, almost kind. It means stability, she said. We will maintain protection and aid for your world, permanently. Thurin's voice rose. You mean occupation? Kepler didn't flinch. Occupation is such an ugly word, Leader Thurin. We prefer stewardship. You asked for our help. We answered. Now we ensure you never need to ask again. Thurin's fists clenched. We did not ask to be ruled. The Admiral looked out the viewport, her voice cold and steady. Then you should never have called humans. Scene 7, The Cold Truth. Hours later, as Thurin returned to the surface, the first human monitoring stations began to rise around the cities. Satellites linked to Earth's network filled the skies. The Vana Republic was safe, healed, rebuilt, and under complete human supervision. Thurin stood in silence, looking at the horizon. He whispered to himself, we asked for doctors, and we got gods. Closing narration YouTube hook line. Humanity's mercy had saved them. Humanity's wisdom had rebuilt them. But as the Vana soon learned, when you invite humans into your world, they never leave. The human ships never left. Weeks passed, then months, and still the great vessels remained in orbit like silver eyes staring down from the heavens. Every city now had human stations, research hubs, and patrol drones. They called it partnership. But to the Vana people it began to feel like a cage. Council leader Thurin stood on the balcony of the rebuilt Capitol Tower. Below him, lights glowed in the streets. Vana workers rebuilding, human engineers overseeing. Above, a single beam of light stretched from the surface to the orbiting fleet, the communication relay. He watched it with quiet dread. Once, his people had sent that signal to ask for help. Now, it was a leash connecting his world to theirs. Behind him, Dr. Kale entered the room quietly. They've installed new monitors in the hospital wings, he said. Every patient record now goes through their database. Thurin didn't turn. They said it was for coordination. Kale's voice was low. They say many things. Scene 2, The Hidden Room. That night, Kale met a small group in a dark underground chamber, deep beneath the Capitol. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of old metal. Around him sat Vana doctors, engineers, and young officers. Each one had seen something strange, something that made them question the humans' intentions. One spoke first. They installed machines under the surface, said they were for stabilizing tectonic activity. But they're not. They're drawing power from the planet's core. Another added, in my factory human supervisors replaced our data terminals. The new ones transmit constantly even when idle. Kale nodded. They're collecting everything. Medical data, planetary readings, even our communications. Humanity is mapping us, completely. A young officer clenched her fists. We should fight back. Kale shook his head. Not yet. We are weak. Every weapon we once had is gone. If we fight now, we die. So what do we do? Another asked. Kale looked up. We learn. We wait. And when the time comes, we take back our world. Scene 3, A Visit from Earth. Weeks later, a new ship arrived. It was unlike the others, darker, sharper, almost silent. It bore no medical insignia, no markings at all. When it landed, only high-ranking human officers came out. Among them was a man dressed in black, his eyes cold and calculating. Admiral Kepler greeted him with a salute. Director Hale, she said. Welcome to New Valera. Thurin watched from a distance as they spoke. The man's expression never changed, his gaze scanning the city like a hunter studying prey. Later, Kepler invited Thurin to a meeting. Inside, Hale stood beside a large display showing the planet. Leader Thurin, he said in a calm, professional tone, Earth has reviewed your world's progress. It is time to move to the next phase. Thurin frowned. Next phase. Hale pressed a button. The map zoomed in, showing human installations across every continent. Full integration, Hale said. Your planet will now operate as a protected human territory. All governance and defense will be jointly managed. Thurin felt the blood drain from his face. You mean, occupation? Hale's lips curved slightly. We prefer the term administration. It ensures peace, stability, and obedience. Kepler remained silent beside him, her expression unreadable. Thurin whispered, This is not help. This is control. Hale looked at him. You called for aid. Humanity answered. Do not confuse salvation with freedom. Scene 4, the crack in the armor. Back underground, Kale and his group listened to the intercepted transmissions again. One message repeated a specific code, something new. Project Ascendant, Kale read aloud. Phase 3, Neuralink Distribution. What's that? Someone asked. Kale's expression turned grim. I've seen those devices. Small implants, they say it helps monitor health and improve memory. They've begun offering them to every Vani worker. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Mind control wasn't necessary when you could control information, health, and technology. The humans didn't need to enslave them, they could rewrite them. Kale placed his hand on the table. We can't wait any longer. We have to find allies, or we'll become another human experiment. Scene 5, the search for allies. Thurin decided to risk everything. He sent a secret message to the outer colonies, small stations beyond the human surveillance range. From the Vana Republic, the message read, To any free world that still listens. Humanity's aid has become our prison. We seek help. He didn't know if anyone would hear it. But someone did. 3 nights later, Nara burst into his office. Leader Thurin. We've received a reply. From who? She handed him the data pad. The message was short, only a few words. We heard your call. Stay hidden. Help is coming. The Helix Resistance. Thurin's eyes widened. The Helix Republic, once thought destroyed by the Kruger War, had survived. For the first time in months he felt hope. Scene 6, Humanity notices. But hope is a dangerous thing. Within days, human sensors detected unusual data traffic. Admiral Kepler stood in the command center, her voice sharp. Who authorized these transmissions? A technician replied, Unknown source, deep underground. Vana sector. Kepler's eyes narrowed. Seal the area. Send a containment team. Down below, Kale and his team were still celebrating the message when the walls began to shake. The lights flickered, then turned red. Human drones broke through the tunnels, their eyes glowing blue. Run! Kale shouted. Laser fire cut through the dark. 2 Vana fell instantly. Others scrambled through hidden passages. Kale grabbed the data core, the only proof of the Helix message, and fled through a maintenance shaft. Behind him, explosions echoed as the drones sealed off the chamber. Scene 7, the chase. Kale emerged into the night air, breathing hard. The city above was quiet, too quiet. Drones hovered at every street corner, scanning. He ran through the alleyways, clutching the data drive. Suddenly, a spotlight cut through the darkness. Freeze! A mechanical voice boomed. Kale ducked into a side corridor, heart pounding. He reached an old transport bay, long abandoned since the invasion. He slipped inside a small cargo shuttle, sealed the hatch, and powered it up. As engines roared to life, human patrols swarmed the area. But before they could fire, the shuttle blasted into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Scene 8, the shadow of mercy. From orbit, Admiral Kepler watched the shuttle vanish. Her aide looked nervous. Should we pursue, ma'am? Kepler's jaw tightened. No. Let him run. We'll find him, and whoever he's running to. Director Hale stood beside her. Rebellion always breeds faster when hope survives. It's useful to let it grow, so we can crush it completely. Kepler didn't reply. She looked out at the stars, at the blue-green planet below. Her voice was cold. Mercy, she said softly, must be absolute. Scene 9, a promise in the dark. Far beyond the human sensors, Kale's shuttle drifted silently through space. He opened the data drive and replayed the Helix message. Stay hidden. Help is coming. He looked at the stars and whispered, then we'll hold on, until it does. In that dark, endless sea, one small ship carried the last spark of freedom for an entire world. Closing narration. YouTube hook line. Humanity had given the Vane everything, life, healing, power. But they forgot one thing. When you heal a broken world, you might ow. The shuttle drifted through deep space, small, fragile, and silent. Inside, Dr. Kale stared at the flickering lights of the navigation console. Fuel was low. Oxygen lower. He had been running for 2 days since escaping the human patrols on New Valera. His body was exhausted, but his mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw them, the humans. Their calm smiles. Their kind words. Their ships floating above his world like gods watching their creation. They had saved his people, and then taken everything from them. The console beeped. Unidentified signal detected, said the computer voice. Kale leaned forward. Source. Outer system, approaching fast. He held his breath. Another human patrol? No, the signal was old, different, coded in a pattern he didn't recognize. Then a voice crackled through the static. This is Captain Riven of the Helix Resistance. Identify yourself. Kale's eyes widened. This is Dr. Kale of the Vana Republic. I have information, vital information, about the humans. There was a pause. Then the reply came. Transmission confirmed. Hold position. We're bringing you in. Outside the window, a shadow moved. Then a ship appeared, dark and massive, its hull marked with the glowing spiral of the helix. Kale exhaled for the first time in hours. He wasn't alone anymore. Scene 2, the Resistance Lives. The helix ship, Eidolon, was nothing like the human vessels. It was older, rougher, built for survival, not beauty. Inside, soldiers and scientists worked together in tight corridors filled with humming machinery. Captain Riven, tall and scarred, greeted Kale in the command room. So the rumors were true, Riven said. The humans didn't come as saviors, they came as shepherds. Kale nodded grimly. They've taken control of every Vana city. Every system. They say it's protection, but it's control. Riven looked at him sharply. And this data you brought? Kale placed the drive on the table. The hologram flickered to life, showing transmissions, genetic scans, planetary maps, and coded messages from Earth. At the center of it all was a phrase, Project Ascendant. Kale explained quietly, it's their real mission. They're collecting DNA from every species they help. They call it evolution, merging the best traits of all life into one perfect design. Riven's eyes narrowed. And that design is human. Kale nodded. They want to make the universe in their own image. Scene 3, the Hidden Army. In the days that followed, Kale learned the truth about the Helix Resistance. They weren't just survivors, they were the remains of dozens of species who had escaped humanity's aid. The Kruger remnants. The shattered Alteran fleets. Even rogue human defectors who had turned against their own kind. Together they had built a hidden network, far beyond Earth's reach, waiting for the right moment to fight back. Kale stood with Riven in the hangar, watching engineers load torpedoes into worn-out fighters. They can't be stopped with weapons, Kale said softly. They control through systems, not guns. Riven smiled grimly. Then we'll take their systems. He pointed at a massive structure at the center of the bay, a dark sphere pulsing with energy. This is the Helix Pulse, he explained. A disruptor. It can cut every AI link in a star system, including human control networks. But it needs a signal source strong enough to broadcast across the galaxy. Kale understood. New Valara's relay tower. Riven nodded. Exactly. We'll have to go back. Scene 4, return to a changed world. Days later, a small fleet of Helix ships appeared at the edge of New Valara's system. They stayed hidden behind the dark side of the moon, invisible to human scanners. From orbit the planet looked peaceful, blue-green, alive. But beneath that calm beauty, the humans had built something terrible. Cities glowed with strange new lights. Drones patrolled the skies. The planetary core itself pulsed with energy from the devices they had buried deep below. This isn't just occupation, Kale whispered. They're turning the planet into a living machine. Riven placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we stopped them here. Scene 5, the Awakening. The plan was simple, and impossible. Kale and a small team would infiltrate the capital, reach the old communication tower, and upload the Helix Pulse through the human network. It would either free the planet, or burn it out completely. They landed at night, under heavy cloud cover. The city shimmered with blue light, beautiful, lifeless. Every screen displayed the same message. Humanity protects. Humanity heals. Humanity unites. Kale led the team through the empty streets. Every few minutes, a drone floated past, cold, watching, humming softly. They reached the tower's base. Once we start, Riven said, they'll come? They always do, Kale replied. They climbed the tower silently. The wind howled. Lightning flashed in the distance. At the top, Kale connected the drive to the control console. Uploading pulse, the system read. Then, alarms. Scene 6, the Wrath returns. From the sky, the human fleet awakened. Engines roared to life. Spotlights cut through the clouds. Admiral Sarah Kepler appeared on every broadcast screen. Dr. Kale, she said, her voice calm, cold. You cannot stop what has already begun. Kale's hands trembled over the console. You lied to us. You promised peace. Kepler's image tilted her head slightly. We gave you peace. You just didn't understand the cost. Human gunships descended through the clouds. The city shook. Riven shouted, we need more time. 20 seconds. Kale yelled back. The tower's structure groaned as explosions hit below. Riven turned, firing at the drones that swarmed the platform. Kale now, he shouted. Kale slammed the activation key. The tower exploded in a pulse of white-blue light that ripped through the atmosphere. The signal spread like fire, across the planet, into orbit, into every human system. Scene 7, the collapse. Above, the human fleet flickered. Engines died. Lights dimmed. Drones fell from the sky like rain. Kepler's ship shook violently. Her officers shouted as screens went dark. Ma'am, the network's collapsing. Kepler stood firm, her face expressionless. So, it ends this way. The last image she saw before the power failed was New Valara's horizon, glowing brighter than a star. Then silence. Scene 8, a new dawn. When the light faded, the world was quiet. The skies were empty. The orbit was clear. For the first time in years, no human shadow hung above New Valera. Kale awoke in the rubble of the tower. The air smelled of smoke and ozone. Riven limped toward him, his armor cracked. Did it work? Kale asked weakly. Riven looked to the sky. You tell me. Above them the clouds parted. Sunlight poured down, warm, real, free. Around the planet, human structures were still lifeless. The Vani gathered in the streets, staring upward as the first dawn without control broke across their world. Scene 9, the message. Days later, Kale stood once again in the council chamber. The same room where long ago they had sent a call for help. Now he stood before the same console, but this time the signal would not be a plea. He spoke softly into the microphone. This is Dr. Kale of the Vani Republic. We were saved by humans. We were ruled by humans. And now we are free from humans. To every world that hears this, be careful who you call for help. He ended the transmission.